Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about recent important developments at their company. With us today, I'm happy to have again Bernard Tourillon, Chairman and CEO of Uragold. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol UBR. Now, this is unique. The company actually put out a press release back on September 30th. We did our first Beyond the Press Release back then, but the news was so big that we had to break this up into segments. So I'm going to remind everyone of the headline at home if you haven't seen the first one yet. The press release the other day basically was partnership with Pyrogenesis puts Uragold in position to turn their quartz projects into the highest purity, lowest cost supplier to the solar industry. In that press release, Bernard Tourillon gave a quote. I'm going to take an excerpt here in order to give some context of what we're going to continue to talk about. In that, Bernard said, this partnership will allow Uragold to go much higher in the high purity quartz value chain by becoming a vertically integrated silicon metal, solar grade silicon metal and polysilicon producer, and become a major participant in the global solar industry. There's no other way to say it. This technology represents a potential quantum leap forward for the solar panel industry, becoming a more competitive source of renewable energy. Bernard, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for having me.
First time around, we talked about the nature of the deal, the nature of the technology, and there's so much to bite off and chew here. What we want to talk about next, and we want to give you a chance to talk about next, are next steps here, because this is the beginning of potentially something great. But there are steps along the way that you've got to execute, and there are steps along the way you've got to be careful of certain things to do everything correctly. Execution, that's all what it's all about. So let's go through what I'm seeing are the first steps, and I'll outline them here, the next steps, and then we'll go through them one by one. So your Generation 1 reactor is being built. Then you're going to go into some metallurgical testing. Depending on how the results go, and obviously you're confident that the results are going to go well, you're going to be producing samples and then start designing the bigger commercial producing Gen 2. So let's start off first, step by step, because I want to play devil's advocate here and make sure everything's going great. Let's talk about the Gen 1 reactor. Where are you with that right now?
Well, right now the reactor is being finalized, being built. It's a specialized piece of equipment that has some very high technical requirements. So it's just been finalized, and it'll be ready on target, as we said in the press release, to do the metallurgic testing in the beginning of 2016. So it's actually advancing pretty well.
Has it? And the advantage here is you've stated in your original press release, but it's been paid for, correct? Yeah.
Well, yes. What it was, it's part of an entire exploration program, which is a metallurgic testing, and the agreement we have with Pyrogenesis that we were going to pay it up front.
Right.
The entire expenses. So we did that. We paid them, and the project is advancing. Of course, there's a lot of steps that have already been done as we move forward, but the final step and the key step is really, the proof is in the pudding when we will actually be producing material. But since we started this process, there's a lot of things been done. The patent application was actually a very long and important and key process, because without the patent, everybody could go in and copy what we're doing. It wouldn't be specific to us. It wouldn't differentiate us once we do the successful part.
And that's obviously a massive right off the bat. You have a massive competitive advantage right at the Gen 1 reactor stage.
Yes, from the beginning From the beginning, I was interested in the worldwide exclusivity for a very simple process. If we can take our quartz and turn it into ultra-high material, okay, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that somebody else could do it using the same process. Since we are the first one, we're the one that, through a series of discussion, brought about that thinking and that development. It's sort of natural that our shareholders will get the benefit as we move forward on the line. So it's sort of a long-term strategic move to have done it now to give us a great competitive advantage afterward. But the key point is we need to do these metallurgic tests, get the results, so we can have an idea what's the value of what we have in the ground. I have a very good general value of what the SiO2 is in the ground, but SiO2 in the ground that's just going to use as lump quartz, you need massive volume to make it something interesting. While if you go much higher on into the value chain, you basically completely change the dynamics of your project.
And you're not going completely into uncharted territory here, because your partner PyroGenesis has some experience at the Gen 1 reactor stage that gives you confidence in their ability to execute that.
Yes, because there's a lot. I'm going to say it's a new process. It's very exclusive, and it's specialized to us. But there's a lot of the reactor design, which is the same as what they've been doing, and they're as they say, they're one of the biggest plasma expert team in North America, and they have big contract with the U.S. Navy and the U.S. government. So they know how to build a plasma reactor to reach a goal that was set up at the beginning. Okay.
Let's talk about. So go ahead, finish that point.
From the beginning, when we approached them, we were discussing with them, presenting to them the metallurgical issues that we wanted to see if they could address. And they were studying this and everything else. This isn't something that happened overnight. This is something it's a long-term process of discussion, technical discussion, in advancing the project to get us where we are right now.
Right. And let's talk about that stage of metallurgical testing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the boogeyman in the room. Every company moving through the value chain like this has to go through it. How do you think you guys are mitigating? Because you can never completely erase that or eliminate that. But how do you think you guys are mitigating the metallurgical side of things?
Well, it's a twofold way we're mitigating. One of them is a clear understanding of what's going to be the chemical reaction that occurs in the reactors is not different than the chemical reaction or the physical reaction that occurs into an arc furnace where everything is done. So it's a question of taking material that you know is going to work and use it there. One of the reasons, as we wrote in the press release, the material we're sending originally to be tested is material that has been sent to a traditional arc furnace operator, okay, and has been declined because impurities have been too high, and basically it's always been a question of impurities. Okay, so we're taking pure material that the traditional process does not work. Okay.
So you're making it extra hard on yourself at the end of the day.
We're making it extra hard on ourselves because we know that if we take material from a property where it will work, we would be at least being able to do silicon metal. Basically, it's been tested by other people. So that can't be a metallurgic testing. Really, if you're taking material, you know the end result is. So the original first 2 tests or 3 tests are going to be done with materials that are there. We're not making it extraordinarily more difficult. There's other technical reason why we've chosen those material. But, one of them is if the process works the way we think it is, we can take material that's much lower in the quality scales and bring it much higher in the quality scale, which basically means there'll be more of it. So basically your resource, the lower you can go in the impurity scale and transform it, the bigger your resource become. So your cutoff grades completely change. That's one of the issues we're looking at. And the second issue is if you can move up from a different material higher up, then your value chains move up. So we're moving in 2 directions. You understand? We're going, changing our cutoff grades, because right now the cutoff grade to make silicon metal, let's not fool ourselves, it's 99.6. You got to have that at least. And you got to have very, very low iron, almost no, very, very low aluminum, and almost no iron into it, okay? Now we're taking material that basically does not meet those criteria in the traditional arc furnace and seeing if we can make that. If that happens, suddenly our resource base goes. It's basically a question of changing the numbers. So we need to know those numbers what's going to be our baseline for cutoff grade. Because, to be honest, if we wanted to guarantee success, we just have to take material that we know is going to work.
Because you did have your quartz tested by a major producer already. You press released that back in March. and they put it through rigorous testing, and they
Yep.
said they liked it, and they were ready to purchase
Yep.
significant tonnage from you. So you know you've got the good stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly. We know we got the good stuff, but there's no. But we know we got the good stuff on one property. We're the largest quartz holder in Quebec. We have 3,200 hectares. All right. We don't want to be just one property specific, one quality. We want to be able to there's 1,400 products that are made out of silicon metal and silicon and everything else. We want to be able to have that flexibility. That's one of the reasons why we're building much more modular systems that are going to be continuous, but they're going to be modular, so we can meet different markets at different high level. So what we're trying to do is see how high we can go in the quality scale and how wide we can go into the resource, the cutoff grade, or how low we can go in the cutoff grade. So that's really the goal that we're advancing. We've been working at this for over years of discussion, looking at the results, working on this, and getting it moving forward. Unfortunately, because there was a patent issue behind this, we had to be very, very, very quiet as we were moving forward, because that's what makes it game-changing. If the technology works, then it will increase the availability of quartz that can be transformed, okay, and will increase the end value we can make of it. Those are two big objectives that we're setting off to. Okay, a lot of people put a lot.
But you, along with Pyrogenesis, you guys seem to have a high degree of confidence that you're going to be able to pull this off.
Well, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just designing it better. It's like the first wheels on the tires were made out of wood. Okay, somebody invented the air chamber. Was that does the fact you put an air chamber in an air tunnel changes the fact the wheels are working? No, it just you improve it. And so you do in everything in life. You do continuous improvement, continuous improvement, continuous improvement. This is just a quantum step advancement of small improvement. Okay. Once plasma was started to be, when people became aware of plasma, everybody went out and did silicon metal using plasma. Right? But at the beginning, there was issues, how you control, how you make a reactor, how you make it work. Okay. But we're 20 years later.
You're the next. This is the next evolution.
This is literally nothing else than the next evolution. Okay. I agree with you that until we come up with the metallurgic testing stand by laboratories that we've done it, we're talking hypothetical. But it's hypothetical, we're hedging our bet. So that's why we're very confident it's going to be working. Both of us, both Pyrogenesis and us. But I can't speak for them. But when they speak to me and I speak to the technical people, everybody's very optimistic that it's gonna work.
All right, Bernard, I think you addressed the metallurgy part, quite frankly, admirably. And gives me some comfort, and actually makes me look forward to what you can be able to do on both ends there. So let's move to the next step. Actually, the next step is going to be producing, the production of samples if all goes well at the previous stage. But before we get to that, let me ask you a question that I thought about before, and it's kind of sprung into mind now, which is capex. And I know you can't, which is for everyone at home, capital expenditures, how much money it's going to cost to build both your generation 1, which you've talked about, and then Gen 2, the bigger one. I know you can't give us specific numbers, but how do you address the fact? How do you address any concerns of people that say, well, if he has to spend $2 or $3 or $4 $500 million to build this thing, then it doesn't matter how good it is, it's just not going to fly, because we've seen so many small cap projects, companies from small cap companies that are great projects, and they're not in this sense, but in any sense, try and be producers and things like that, and they just get halted and stopped because the capex is just too big for anybody to take a risk on making that kind of an investment. So, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought we have a pretty good idea of the ballpark figure of the capex. We'll get the final numbers later, and the reason behind this is very simple. The generation 2 reactors is going to be nothing else than a scaled up model of the generation 1 using the same technology, same process, everything else. Scaling up material and process is what Pyrogenesis has been doing for many, many years, but we're scaling it up to a 6 ton a day plant. That's not very, very big. So we're not talking about a massive smelter that has to be built in a smeltery design place where smeltery thing is. We're talking about a plant that can be assembled, and the keyword I'm using is assemble, in an industrial park.
Okay.
It's a 6-ton-a-day machine, all right? And Pyrogenesis have built many different size tonnage. They have experience in the costing numbers, so I'm very confident about the ballpark figure they're giving me about this.
And for people watching at home, you can't give any of us the exact figure. I don't even know the exact figure because you haven't come up with the official number yet, and you can't guesstimate. I guess I'm getting in trouble.
Well, yeah, you can't really. You can do back of the envelope. This is where we get into the gray zone of number. Okay, what happens is once the plant is designed and I'm being told it's XYZ cost, then I'll be able to divulge what is the cost. At this moment, I don't have a report telling me the cost is. I have preliminary discussion and everything else, and it's not worth my while to spend $10,000 to have reports that it's going to theoretically cost around this. So there's no in value of this. At this moment, what I know is that the capital expenditures make sense within the business model that we've always managed and mentioned a year ago, which is we look at projects that are feasible for a junior exploration company to finance. And you have to remember that we're not going to be financing a smelter. We're going to be financing a plant. The plant will transform our raw material to a finished product with higher value. All right, so it's still part of the mining sector, but it is a plant, which means it can be financed as a plant.
No shafts, no smelters, no big trucks, none of all going out
6 tons a day.
How many tons somewhere? You're going to be in an industrial park somewhere in Montreal, somewhere in the
exactly. I can connect myself next to the power line. That's it. That's the key.
I thought that was important to talk about because, and I hadn't come up with my original list of questions for you, but I think that's important to talk about because just too many projects are stopped dead when they look so great, and then you find out there's a $400 million price tag to get this thing off the ground, and it just can't go. So let's go back to the train of thought we had before. Testing goes okay, metallurgy comes back fine. You find out the upper end of how pure you can get this. You find out the lower end of what your cutoff grade would be. Presumably, you're happy that you move forward. You're producing samples at point. Who are you producing samples for? And this is where I got to play devil's advocate, given how big and competitive the solar industry is. How are you going to get those things into the hands of potential end customers that you want to turn into customers?
Well, it's big and it's small at the same time. We've already started to have some preliminary discussion with people that are curious about what we're doing. We're going to be. It's like any other industrial process. They have a charge of if you can deliver X, Y, Z at this price, we'll buy some. So we'll take a look at say okay, we'll send you samples. I hate to say this, but at Alibaba, you go in China and you Google it and you'll get it. There's the material you'll get. You're not guaranteed of everything else. We can do something specific. We have another incredible marketing advantage is we will be controlling from the beginning of the process to the end. So the quality will be known from the beginning to the end, and it'll be able to have complete traceability. Might be silly, but traceability simplifies everything because if you're using the same material, let's say, I'm going to a hypothetical example. I have a company that wants me to build polysilicon for their solar panel, but they need exactly these specification. And it comes out from a material from XYZ properties. Well, I can guarantee the entire chain of process all the way to them. So it's just going to be, it's going to be selling. But, that's what we do. And the beauty of it is we have the machine. We can bring investors and buyers, come and take a look. This is how it's done. This is how it's going to be working. And the objective is to take that time while we build the plans for generation 2 to get far enough in the process to have somebody says, okay, I'll buy you XYZ if we can get a lead order. But I'm like, there's nothing guaranteed now. I can't go out and get a lead order right now. I haven't done the metallurgic testing. That's just the plan.
All right, and let's probably end it there because that's Gen 1 all the way through to Gen 2. There's more to do as you get bigger, assuming things go well and go bigger. But I think we've given everyone at home a really good indication. You've been able to give everyone at home a really good indication of where your company's going and what kind of milestones. You're not able to provide dates and those kind of things. You've had some loose references in the last press release, but hopefully you'll be in a position to put out more specific dates and data in the next couple of months as you keep moving forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. We will.
Bernard, thanks for taking the time. In this small cap space, it's hard to find exciting companies. It's hard to find companies that are going to be able to make a difference. And just the fact that you're one of the few there and you're here on Agoracom, talk to everybody and to your shareholders is an exciting thing. We need a big winner, and everybody's rooting for you. And I bet you even your competitors, even your peer companies are rooting for you because a big success is long overdue. And the next 3-4 months, looking forward to with great anticipation.
Me too. Thanks.
You've been watching Bernard Tourillon. He's Chairman and CEO of Uragold. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol UBR. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.